I'm Valerie Connelly, and I'm here to talk with you about Fearless, a musical I've written that draws from the many, I hate to say how many years of time I've spent as a songwriter and composer and performer. Not always in a straight line. I started out my life in music, playing the piano before I could even climb up on the piano bench. And by the time I was 22, I was sure that was going to be my life's career until I went in the Peace Corps and took a right face and learned a few things about life and the world at large. And when I came back, I got married and did perform, was working in Chicago in the clubs and teaching and doing a number of things. And then along came the first child. And you know how it is. You get married, and later on I got divorced, and I was teaching French at that time and had a master's degree in French. But the music was always flowing along the side. It was always in my classrooms. It was always in my weekend. I sometimes was gigging, I was performing. And finally, as my kids grew up and were out of the house most of the time, I started back into music as much as I could in the 90s. And I was performing in the city there in Chicago, in a lot of the different clubs, and writing songs too. And so I was doing covers and presenting my own music. And some were saying, well, why don't you do a musical? So I did a musical, and I based it on a novel by William Saroyan. The Saroyan estate actually gave me the option to do that. And the first song of Fearless comes from that musical. Needless to say, it never staged. Then in 2013, I really had it in my mind to do a musical like Fearless. And I had come down to the Nashville area and had finally settled in Tennessee, which I probably should have done many years ago. And in any case, so now later in life, I'm picking up where I left off. And Fearless is a live and breathing entity, and it starts with Nothing Is Ours But Time. And that's a song that I pulled from the other musical. As I said, in 2013, I did a little one-act play to kind of test some of the newer songs that I have. People loved them, and they were encouraging me again to write that full-blown musical. So here I am talking about Fearless with you.
It's great to have you here, Valerie. Let's just get right down to it. Tell us how your broad life experiences and your musical experiences narrowed down into Fearless the musical. And tell us how you brought the storyline into view.
Well, when you are a songwriter, especially if you're writing story songs, they come from life. And I began to see that the musical Fearless was going to be about the lives we're living. It wasn't going to be something contrived, really. It is drawn from the lives of people I've known, my own life and other lives, but it comes together as a sort of universal theme where if you have the courage, you can do whatever it is you need to or want to do. So, Nothing Is Ours But Time and Her Story, the first two musicals I've written, do inform Fearless. There's music from both of those. But I also wrote music specifically for Fearless, where it fit into the story to have a song like that. And I tested all of these things in performance in a little club up in Cookeville, Tennessee, and kept honing them, and finally came to the idea of the story itself. It's a little bit like the way Rubens, I don't know if you're into painters, but he was a painter during the Renaissance who was able to paint the way light flows through the body. If you hold a flashlight up to your hand, you can see the color. Well, he did that with a candle, and he painted about the ordinary people, which was highly unusual at the time. The Impressionists did the same thing. They were very focused on showing the world as it was at the time, whether it was a train station or people having beer in a beer hall. I mean, it was very every day. Again, it didn't fit with what was going on in the professional world of art, but we love them for it now because we can see the way it was. Well, Fearless is a bit like that. It is a little snapshot of life today for people who have lived their lives and are trying to recreate a new life as they have grown older, and for their children who have had their own issues and things to deal with. So it's really the boomer generation and the X-Gen generation, which in terms of an audience base is about 150 million people. So there's a lot of people out there who might I think will resonate with the music and the story of Fearless. Starlight, star bright, make me a star tonight. Far away galaxies cross the universe to me. I make the North Star brighter to guide the sailors home. Brighter stars shine whiter so they don't feel alone. When children wish for favors, I grant them all for free. There is no wish too grand for stars like me.
Indeed. Tell us a little bit about the characters.
Well, the characters of Fearless are pretty much like any one of us is. But I write from a woman's point of view, inevitably, because I'm a woman. I can't step out of that and make it up for men. I have to take it from this viewpoint. And so there are many the female characters are strong. But I wanted to balance that with strong male characters. And I've known a lot of strong men, very strong personalities, and with their foibles and weaknesses too. And that's true for the women. So basically what I wanted to do was have a balance and counterbalance of everybody having a strong viewpoint and yet their weaknesses, the things they want. It's a double love story. Nikki, who is the main female lead, is a 60-something woman, divorced after many years of marriage. And she's an author, has sold books, but she's in a writer's block. And she's frustrated with that. And she can't seem to get out of it. And her publisher is pushing on her. Maggie, her daughter, is the X-Gen gal who really wants to her kids are grown up enough that she wants to go back to her career in the arts. She's a painter, but she's also an art historian. And so the gallery downtown is asking her to come work for them as an acquisitions director. And they're offering her a good salary. And she's excited about that. Well, that sets up a little bit of a conflict with her husband, Jason, who is a high-powered lawyer and who's been offered a partnership if they will move off to England. And she doesn't want to move. She just wants to get going here. So there's more to that conflict. And it's the life struggle that many of us experience. Who's going to dominate? Can't we do this kind of together, parallel? And that's a big question. Their children come into it too. The two little kids they're not little kids. They're sort of 10 or 11 years old, middle school age, and they're twins. And so they want their parents to be happy, of course, and that's what all children of strife-driven marriages want, is the happiness. In any case, the double love story is between Jason and Maggie and Nikki and her suitor, Daniel, who is a widowed businessman. He's retired, but he's got a lot of background, and he's kind of floundering around looking for something to do that has meaning for him beyond the soccer games that he runs for the kids. He's a coach. So I wrote Fearless to touch upon the themes of life that kind of start from the beginning and take us to the end. And it's with a particular honesty.
Well, you mentioned writing from a woman's perspective, and we've all been told that writers should write about what they know. So how does your own experience influence the story? What do you see of yourself?
What I see in this of myself, too, is that I set, as many do, I set my dream aside to raise my family and to make a living for them. I would love to have had it all happening in music, but those sacrifices were probably greater than I could have made at the time. So I was able to keep it going along on the side. And many people do this. And when they come to retirement, there's this feeling of, what am I going to do with my day? It's kind of like a hole in the heart, because your kids are grown and retirement is coming at you. Either it's coming at you or you're already retired, and you want to have a meaning to get up every morning. Otherwise, why are you here? Well, that's another theme in Fearless. Finding that thing and finding out who you are to be living that new life that you're trying to build. So the motivations of the characters are just like the motivations of almost all of us. One of my daughters says to me, "Oh yeah, I'm not one of those who can sit every weekend and watch football and eat potato salad. I've got to be doing something else." But there are lots of people who like to watch football and eat potato salad, so it all works. But Fearless is about people who are questioning.
I guess that's pretty much all of us. Earlier, you told us about your musical journey, about the 2 previous musicals that you wrote, the songs that you brought into Fearless from those, as well as new songs written specifically for Fearless. We're interested in how those songs came together.
The songs of Fearless are really a mixture of things that have been written, and as you say, things that I've written specifically for the musical. I found that the way my music evolved over the years was talking about these topics all the way along as I was living them. When I was getting divorced, that's what I was writing about. I was writing about how hard it was before, or how sad I am that it's the way it is, or how happy I am that I'm free. I mean, it was a whole mixture of emotions. Anyone who's been, more than half the population's been through that, they're going to relate. Now I listen to sad songs. Now my phone doesn't ring. Moments catch me as I am. I hate this crazy mood I'm in. I'm doing time with the blues. The songs that I wrote just for Fearless are intended to give more of that Broadway feel to the musical, and I think they do that. They involve a number of the characters and other people who are on stage with them. But the thing about the songs is they continue the dialogue of the play. I mean, there's discussion that goes on. There's interaction that goes on, but the songs are where the characters pretty much reveal the most intimate part of their moment. Whether it's a funny one or it's a poignant one, it doesn't seem to matter. They are speaking through the song. It's almost like the dialogue has just turned into music for a while, and then it goes back to being dialogue. And when I did the one-act play, the audience interaction really showed me that this was going to work. This kind of topic was going to work because it's a tough topic. There's a song in there called Forgetting, and it's about those times when you think you've lost it when you really haven't. You just have so much in there that you have to search for what you're looking for. I've forgotten so much more than others ever knew. It isn't any comfort when I can't find my shoes. Growing pent-up rage.
How does the technology of today feed into your music composition?
Well, the technology of today's musical world is phenomenal. I used to have to write everything out by hand, and I can notate score, but you realize that's going to take forever. And I didn't have, well, I took 50 years to get here. I suppose I did have the time, but I didn't know at the time I was going to be here. So when the technology opened up and it was possible to play a line into a keyboard and have it come up in an editor as music without all kinds of weird things going on, had that been the case back in 1969 when I was 22, I never would have left music. It was the fact I couldn't just call upon an orchestra to play my song for me that really cut me back in those days. Today I can. It's in my studio. I can play it, and there it is, and I can orchestrate it. So the technology is critical. And I'm glad I've been a computer gal all along, because it really made it not impossible. But musicals themselves have changed, too, from the time I was listening. I mean, when I wrote Fearless, I'm really hearing it through a filter of the great old musicals. And I wanted that sound, but I also wanted that sound to have a more modern 21st century feel as well. So it's trying to take those wonderful memories of the music and bring it into today's vernacular musically. And the technology allows for that.
Well, what makes a song for a musical as opposed to a song for radio?
Well, they're usually a little bit longer, and they talk about things that are specific to a moment. I think because of the way they're orchestrated too, you're working with a pit orchestra, you have singer dancers on stage, not always, but often, and so that is a whole different sound than you would have if you're singing a broken-hearted love song with a guitar and maybe a bass and a piano. Here, that guitar or piano or bass fits in at first, but then it blows out into an orchestrated thing. It's not really a symphony, but it's kind of got that symphonic sound going with it. So I think it's a very different intent.
I see. I want to get back to the characters, to the cast. We met the two couples. Who else makes up the cast?
Well, you have the two couples and the kids. Daniel is Nikki's suitor. His son, Danny, is another of the characters. And he's, when his mother passed away, he kind of hit the skids, and he's been living on mooching off his dad for 5 years. Well, his mother comes to visit him in a dream. And this is where I take some things from my French literature background. I take an influence from Jean-Paul Sartre in his book, Les Jeux sont faits, The Games Are Done. It's really what they say when you're playing a game of roulette, when you can't place your bets any longer. Les Jeux sont faits means you've played your game. Now, just wait till it plays out. And in that novel, the idea that people, given the opportunity to take the chance and do the thing that will make them happy, but with the caveat that they have to give up everything they were before, prevents them from doing the thing that will make them happy, because it's really hard to give up the people and everything that you were before. So people tend to stay where they are instead of moving out. You have to be fearless to move out. And another aspect in his book, Les Jeux sont faits, was he brought the idea that the dead are among us. They can see us and they make fun of us the whole time, but they can't touch us or influence us. And they kind of suffer the slings and arrows of that. Well, Allison is Danny's mother, Daniel's late wife, and she comes into the play to, in fact, affect influence. And she appears to Danny in a dream and speaks with him about the slouchy kind of guy he's become. And she leaves things around. She moves things to where she knows Daniel is going to open a book and find a picture or this or that. And she does influence them. So she's a ghost. She's the fantasy in the story. But she brings that perspective and sort of gives them permission to do what they are about to do. And we see them grow and become who they are supposed to be.
You handle some very serious issues in Fearless, and you do it with music. Sometimes it's funny and ironic, sometimes sad and poignant.
Yes. Life after 40 begins to change rapidly, and you become more focused on life, and the more difficult things, some of them really lend themselves great to humor. For example, this little flap of skin underneath our arms, it's called a bingo wing. Well, there's a terrific, funny song, and I literally, people were falling off their chairs when I performed this live. There's a song that Nikki and some women who just appear in the play at the moment for the purpose of the song. But she's describing to her daughter why she doesn't want to hook up with Daniel. She can't stand her own body. It isn't the body she remembers. And it really does deal with the physical decline of the female body in such a funny way that it makes it, I mean, people would say, how did you ever come up with that as something to write about? And I said, because it was bugging me. And I did. Bingo wings, not fast food to go. Turkey neck, pancake boobs, big ears and drooping nose. Where's a magic pill to take to drive this scourge away? Bingo wings, flat on my arms, how did they get that way? So that's one. Another is that another song that proved well in the testing process was "Dogs Are Better People Than People." Now, I'm a dog person, and I have 3 dogs, have had 4, and I'm always taking care of other people's dogs. It's part of my life. And dogs really behave the way we all should behave. They give respect to the alpha dog. They're playful. They always show you that they love you. And even if you're crying, they'll kiss your face. They're funny. They make you laugh. And that's what the song is about. Well, why is it in the play? Because Maggie is trying to get her mother out of the house. She's become a hermit. She doesn't take a shower every day. She's doing that reclusive thing that is kind of dragging her down intellectually, too, because she can't write her book. So Maggie says, I'm going to get you a dog, and you're going to have a companion. You'll have to get out of the house every day. And Nikki responds to that with like, oh, empty threat. Well, later on in the play, that's exactly what happens. And the song occurs during a party that is happening, kind of a carpe diem party. And Nikki and her friends are there, and Maggie comes in, and there's a reason for that with the pups. So there will be real puppy dogs. And it just kind of expounds on the idea that dogs are great, and this is why. 'Cause dogs are better people than people. Trusting, loving hounds. Man's best friend, loyal to the end. Dogs are better people than people. Nikki sings a song to Daniel called When I'm 95, and it's in response to a song that he has sung about listening to your heart. And she fully believes she will live to be at least 95. And she goes through the life cycle and what she was learning each step along the way. She mentions ages and says, but when I'm 95, and is the chorus line. And it's a fun song about the fact that we are all going to end it someday. But she's not going to do it till she's 95. So she's explaining that. And then during this Carpe Diem party, the women discuss their perfect man. And that's really funny because each woman it's a sing-song back and forth to each other kind of song about the attributes that each woman wants. My perfect man owns a Learjet, not a van. He's never been sued or put on trial. Smile. dark, handsome. They also reflect on what it was like to try to be a supermom, where you could have it all, be the mom at home and have a high-powered job, and how hard that was, and how really almost impossible that was to do any of it well when you were trying to do all of it. So there's a song called Supermom Rag, which comes from that era in my own life, and it is straight to the point, and people love that song. It's always been a big hit anytime I put it into a gig. And then there's Just an Old Hippie. And most of us had some sort of affinity to the hippie movement back in the 60s, and here we are, and we're not hippies anymore, and we kind of see things more clearly, and it's about wishing you could just be like it was back in the 60s, but here's what it's like today, and I just wish I could be an old hippie. It's very funny. And it takes on that whole contradiction of what we thought life was and what it has turned out to be. But the more emotive ones, Forgetting is one where we all kind of worry if we're going to lose our minds. I mean, for heaven's sakes, we take things that are made from jellyfish just on the hope that our brains are going to keep ticking, right? And so Forgetting is something that Daniel's concerned about, and he sings it to Nikki, and she understands that. But the way he describes it, it's kind of like what everybody experiences. It's really hard to remember going through all those mental file drawers. Nikki also sings to Maggie about how life begins now. Every day is a new day. So one more day, is the day that is going to make her life better. You have to live every day. It's a great message song, and it's upbeat, but it's serious in its message. Till Tomorrow Comes is when Maggie confesses to her mother that she's thinking of leaving Jason. This rift is pretty deep, and it's gone on for a long time. And we see bits and pieces of that in the play. We can relate to the song, and most of us have had an experience with that. And she keeps waiting till the next day. Till tomorrow comes. I'm going to fly on wings of fire. I'm going to swim through raging water. Because I have to leave. So I'm going to do that when tomorrow comes. And it's always put off. And she comes to the point in the play where it's going to happen. So that's a very strong song. Maggie doesn't understand how important she is in her own mother's life, although she understands how important her children are to her. And Nikki sings to Maggie about her wondering who Maggie was going to become from the first day, and how she evolved through the life. And so the song is called Who You Gonna Be, and it's about those steps where she was there for Maggie all the way. And Maggie has expressed that she will be there for her mother as she grows older and older and will need her, and the roles will have to change. That's a pretty tough topic, but it's a very loving song, and it's got an upbeat feel to it. So I'm trying to take on these difficult topics in a way that make them accessible to the audience and to the characters, and therefore the audience. And we all get to think about it. It's fun. It's not down, it's up. And that's what Fearless is all about. Like old wood in the sunlight, showing all the cracks and seams where grain and glue are aging till they leave a line or crease. My life is worn and polished to a soft patina shine, and in the golden sunlight I still hope to call you mine. It's not about the time, it's not about the years. Love's the only reason. Love is all there is, all there is.
lot of love in this story.
Yes, there is.
And how does that come out through the songs?
Well, more than almost, I would have to say almost half the songs are love songs, unabashed love songs. And they are sung not just between people who want to be in love, but they are sung between mother and daughter singing together to the two men in their lives. The song Love Is All There Is it's almost a dark sounding song, but it is the song that was the catalyst to Fearless, in the sense that those who heard it made a very pointed plea to me. People I know said, this song and all the other ones have to go into a musical. And at the time in Fearless where this happens, Nikki and Maggie Maggie has just told Nikki that she's going to leave Jason, and they're trying to work that out. And Nikki begins the song, and the first line is, like old wood in the sunlight. And it goes on to describe the way life is, showing all the cracks and seams. And it's a absolutely epic song for love. And the two men, in the way I see it staged, are on the wings, and they're doing business that they have to do for where they are in the story, but it's all in mime. And the two women are singing to the men they love. And that way we know that they love them. Nikki's had all kinds of push away moments with Daniel, and Maggie, of course, is leaving Jason. And it's just at that point that they sing about how much they love what love is. And therefore we get the connection that they love the men that in their lives and want to work all that out. So Love Is All There Is sort of the seminal love song. But Daniel declares his love to Nikki in a song called A Heart Still Made of Gold. And that talks about the broken heart, how his heart was broken when his wife died. And Nikki's heart was broken many times. She responds to him with a song called Burning Stone, and what it feels like to have a broken heart. And those are juxtaposed right next to each other, and it's quite interesting to see how those characters handle it. I offer you my broken heart, the only heart I own, broken by the love I lost, a heart still made of gold. When Love Takes Hold of You is one of those songs that I wrote just expressly for Fearless, because Nikki suddenly gets it. It's right after she and Maggie have sung about love is all there is. And Daniel calls her and says he needs her to come and help him do something. And I don't want to blow that out yet. But she says, okay, and she goes. And on the way, she realizes that she loves him. And she's finally going to express that. And it's a street scene, and there are lots of other people involved in the song. But when love takes hold of you, your heart, your smile, and your dreams all change. And it's about that. And it's a very upbeat confession of love about Daniel. And then she sings Welcome to My Life when she gets to him eventually. It comes up, and she sings to let him know she's accepting him into her life. So she's welcoming him into her life. And it's a love song that, it's one of those poignant love songs, but it's upbeat still in feel. And of course, the theme song of the play is Fearless. And Fearless is a love song. It's about being unafraid. Even though you know what love can do to you, you're unafraid. You have no fear. You are fearless, and you're falling in love again. And that's really what happens with all the characters in the play.
You are living a dream. What would you say to others who have the same ambitions, the same kind of dream?
Dreams are meant to be fulfilled. And if we are honest with ourselves, if we've set a dream aside, it niggles at us the whole lifetime. It keeps coming at us in different ways. Opportunities appear, and either we turn away or we turn forward. And I have constructed my life at this time to finally live the dream. My mother's words are in my ears almost every day. She told me many years ago, and all of the time I was coming up, I was meant to be a musician. I was meant to sing to the world. And it's not me singing now, it's the songs. It's not about my voice, it's about my voice through the songs. And other people will bring these characters to life, and I cannot wait to see that, because I know there's hardly a human being alive on the planet who hasn't got some way to relate to the story and to the songs, especially in the European world. I'm really thinking of the European and American world. And yet I think probably doesn't matter who you are. If you're human, you've got these urges. And I cannot foresee, I cannot accept. And if Fearless doesn't go where I want it to go, if it doesn't fulfill the dream fully, I'll just write another one. Just keep going, because this is the kind of thing I can do until my 95th year when I drop dead. Although I probably won't, because I really, really think about 100. And if I get to 100, well, why not 102? Why not? So I think there's no moment like today. This is the moment to start living your dream. If you put it aside, pick it up, make the changes you have to make, and go for it. That's easier said than done, but it's worth doing.
Listen to your heart, it's beating. Listen to your heart, it's beating. Bruised and broken, still it's strong, keeping time to your life song. Listen to your heart, it's beating, beating, beating.
You have to do whatever it is that comes into your mind. If you have a great idea about songs and you maybe just play a guitar and have kind of a crackly voice, that doesn't matter. Remember Bob Dylan? He didn't have the greatest voice in the world, but he was a terrific poet and he had a great idea. And I think that's probably true of most musicians who never really get out in the front. The songwriter is the person who doesn't really want to stand in front. They want to write the songs that others will sing. Barry Manilow put that into a song. I write the songs the whole world sings, and that is where I am now. I have an okay voice, but I'm not of the age that anybody's going to make me into a star the way I envisioned it when I was 22. That's not going to happen. That's a reality. But I have the life experience now to bring to the music. Everyone has the life experience to bring to their dream. And that's what they should do. Get out there and do it.
A minute ago, you said something about if it doesn't fulfill the whole dream. What is that? What do you want to see? What happens now?
Well, we're putting it up at the Cookeville Performing Arts Center. It's a nice little theater in Cookeville, Tennessee. I see Fearless on Broadway. I've seen Fearless on Broadway since it became an idea. And others have said, I see Fearless on Broadway. In fact, people who invest in Broadway stuff have said, we see Fearless on Broadway. So that's where I want it to go. Now, it's a bit presumptuous, perhaps, to say I'm writing a musical and it's going to Broadway. But that aside, if I'm not going to say that, who will? And that's another thing that people who have a dream need to understand. You must be able to voice where you really want it to go. If it doesn't get to Broadway, I will have done my best to make it do that. And if it doesn't, I'll write another one. I'll take the learning experience and go ahead and try it again. But I have that dream, I have that hope, and I have the will to try to push it that far. We'll see what happens. It's up to a lot of other people, but I'm there with the baby. Take your steps. Let's get going.
Love begins with one small step, leads to places we ain't seen yet. Nights grow long and days grow short. Time finds a thief who slams the door. Love knows you